Look, the Phillies are standing at the most critical crossroads of their offseason, and the decision that unfolds in the coming days could completely reshape this franchise's championship window for the next half-decade. ESPN's Jeff Passan just dropped an absolute bombshell of a report that has sent shockwaves through the baseball world, and if you're a Phillies fan, you better buckle up because this roller coaster is just getting started. Let's cut right to the chase. Kyle Schwarber, the 32-year-old slugging machine who just put together one of the most dominant offensive seasons in recent Phillies history, is officially the hottest commodity on the free agent market, not named Kyle Tucker. And yes, you read that right. There's another Kyle in this story, and he might just be the Phillies' plan B if Schwarber decides to take his thunderous left-handed power somewhere else. The drama is real, the stakes are astronomical, and the entire baseball landscape is watching to see how this plays out. Passan's article breaks down the entire free agent landscape with surgical precision, but the heart of the story revolves around two players who share the same first name but represent wildly different paths for the franchise's immediate future. Kyle Tucker is unquestionably the crown jewel of this free agent class. At just 28 years old, the man is an absolute force of nature with a career OPS plus of 140. The kind of power-speed defense combination that makes general managers weak in the knees. Tucker is staring down a contract that will likely exceed $300 million and could potentially blast past the $400 million mark. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating for Philadelphia. Kyle Schwarber, despite being 4 years older and locked into the designated hitter role full-time, is coming off what Passan describes as the best walk year of any free agent this winter. Let those numbers marinate for a second. Schwarber led the entire National League with 56 home runs. He drove in a league-best 132 runs. And perhaps most impressively, he played in all 162 games, proving that his durability and consistency are as valuable as his raw power. This wasn't just a good season. This was a statement season. The kind of performance that forces teams to throw conventional wisdom out the window and start writing checks with a lot of zeros. The demand for Schwarber is through the roof, and it's not hard to understand why. Sure, he's not going to get a decade-long deal because of his age and the fact that he's exclusively a DH. Most projections have him landing somewhere in the 5-year range. But when you hit like Kyle Schwarber hits, when you provide the kind of protection in the middle of a lineup that makes opposing pitchers lose sleep, age becomes just a number. The Philadelphia Phillies are, according to Passan, fending to re-sign him. That's not surprising given what Schwarber has meant to this organization over the past 4 years. He's been more than just a middle-of-the-order bat. He's been a clubhouse leader, a veteran presence that younger players gravitate toward, and a voice of experience that carries weight when things get tough in October. The intangibles Schwarber brings are almost as valuable as his ability to demolish fastballs. But here's where the plot thickens. The Phillies aren't the only ones circling Schwarber. The Boston Red Sox are apparently still kicking themselves for letting Schwarber walk after 2021, and they'd love nothing more than to correct that mistake. The New York Mets would view stealing Schwarber from Philadelphia as a major coup. The Toronto Blue Jays desperately want a left-handed complement to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Cincinnati is just 40 minutes south of where Schwarber grew up, offering that hometown appeal. The Detroit Tigers need serious thump in their lineup. And in perhaps the most eyebrow-raising revelation, the Pittsburgh Pirates are actually in on Schwarber. Let that sink in. The Pirates, a franchise that has become synonymous with budget constraints and letting star players walk, are actually opening their wallets for Kyle Schwarber. If that doesn't tell you how universally valued this guy is across baseball, nothing will. The contract offers flying around are likely to push Schwarber's average annual value north of $30 million per year. One of the most underrated aspects of Schwarber's game is his plate discipline. The guy has among the best eyes in baseball, and he's evolved tremendously over the years. Left-handed relief pitchers used to absolutely carve Schwarber up, coming into the 2025 season in 706 career plate appearances against lefty relievers. He had managed just 20 home runs with a measly 664 OPS, but something clicked last season. In 143 plate appearances against left-handed relievers in 2025, he absolutely demolished them to the tune of 14 home runs with a staggering 1.147 OPS. That's not improvement. That's complete and total mastery. Now, here's where the Phillies' contingency planning comes into play. Passan indicates that in all likelihood, Schwarber's signing will happen before Tucker because of the expected contract numbers. Schwarber's 5-year deal is more digestible and quicker to negotiate than Tucker's expected 10-year-plus mega deal. Tucker's offers will be more limited simply because fewer teams can afford to commit that kind of money for that length of time. But here's the twist that has Phillies fans simultaneously terrified and excited. If Schwarber leaves Philadelphia, Tucker makes plenty of sense as the pivot move, particularly as the Phillies are actively trying to get younger, with 21-year-old Justin Crawford expected to enter spring training as the favorite to win the center field job. Tucker would give the Phillies that youth injection combined with elite production, solving multiple problems simultaneously. The outfield has been a struggle for Philadelphia, and landing Tucker would represent a massive upgrade in talent, defense, and long-term upside. The problem, and it's a significant one, is that the Phillies can't really do much of anything until they know Schwarber's decision. Schwarber is at the top of their priority list, and you can't start checking off the other items on your off-season to-do list until you've locked down your primary target. How long will that take? Nobody knows. Will the Phillies reach a point where they don't want to wait anymore? Maybe. But all signs point to Schwarber remaining the Phillies' number one choice. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Schwarber just put together an unbelievable season, capping off 4 incredible years in Philadelphia. He's been a cornerstone of this franchise's competitive window, a guy who shows up every single day and grinds regardless of circumstances. He's one of the better veterans in all of baseball when it comes to leadership and being a vocal presence in the clubhouse. The combination of on-field production and off-field leadership is incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. But the drama doesn't end with just Schwarber and Tucker. Passan's report dropped several other fascinating nuggets about former Phillies navigating free agency. JT Realmuto, the only full-time starting caliber free agent catcher on the market, should have high interest from teams all across baseball, including potentially returning to Philadelphia. Though at 35 years old on opening day, he's not looking at more than a 2-year deal. Then there's Ranger Suarez. Multiple teams have apparently told Passan they have the left-hander at the top of their list for best pitchers available this winter. Despite never throwing 160 innings in a season, Suarez is going to get paid handsomely. The 30-year-old's consistency as a difficult-to-square-up, low-walk, low-homer left-hander has earned him plenty of admirers. He's probably looking at something in the range of Nathan Eovaldi's 3-year, $75 million deal. Oh, and here's one more juicy tidbit. Philadelphia has already tried to trade Nick Castellanos and his $20 million salary. So far, no bites. That tells you everything you need to know about how the rest of baseball views that contract. The Phillies are clearly trying to create some financial flexibility, but moving that contract is proving tougher than they probably hoped. So where does this leave us? The Phillies are in a waiting game with Kyle Schwarber, and that waiting game is holding up virtually everything else they want to accomplish this offseason. They desperately want him back, and it's not hard to understand why. But if Schwarber decides to chase a bigger payday elsewhere, then the Phillies have a backup plan that's actually pretty exciting. Kyle Tucker would represent a seismic shift in the franchise's approach, getting younger and more athletic while still maintaining elite offensive production. The dominoes are set up, and once that first one falls, the entire landscape could change in a heartbeat. Will Schwarber return to Philadelphia and continue the partnership that's been so successful? Will he bolt for greener pastures and force the Phillies to pivot to Tucker? Will the Phillies get impatient and make a preemptive strike for Tucker if they sense Schwarber is leaning elsewhere? These are the questions that will define Philadelphia's championship window moving forward. One thing is absolutely certain. The Phillies are aggressive, they're motivated, and they understand that the window of opportunity with this core group won't stay open forever. They've been knocking on the door of a World Series championship, and they know that making the right moves this offseason could be the difference between hoisting a trophy and watching someone else celebrate. The pressure is on, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the entire baseball world is watching to see how this drama unfolds. Whether it's Schwarber returning home or Tucker arriving as the new savior, the Phillies are about to make some noise. Drop a comment below telling me where you think Schwarber ends up and whether the Phillies should go all in on Kyle Tucker if Schwarber walks. This is going to be one wild ride.